Alrighty, so it's time to finish off reviewing all the games for match week number 8. And remember, I already did the review for El Tráfico, so that means I've only got 5 games to review in part 2 instead of the usual 6. And that means this video will definitely be shorter than other part 2 reviews I've done for the match week. And I also was originally debating whether or not should I make the Cascadia Derby game its own video just like El Tráfico, but alas, I decided to include in part 2 of this review. But with that being said, let us actually get into the first game, which is Dallas and RSL. And this feels like one of those games where the better team lost in this one, because coming into this game, RSL were by far the better team, especially when you look at the stats, but Dallas was just a little bit more clinical in this game. Well, that's kind of an understatement. They were lethal in terms of their finishing, and Martin Paz definitely had a good game in this one in terms of he decided that he's not going to allow more than one goal past him in this one. Though early on in the second minute, Gomez would hit the side netting from close range before in the fifth minute, Dallas takes the lead. It's Ferreira scoring from Jesus and Legit to make it 1-0 in favor of Dallas. That's kind of weird to see that Ferreira and Jesus gets on the combination because Ferreira's first name is Jesus, and I won't be surprised that won't be the last time we're going to see that happen. But in the 11th minute, on the other end, Savarino looked for a quick response, but he curls it just wide of the net. Ruiz then hits the backside of the netting there, as I thought it was a great response for RSL. They were pressing to try to get the equalizer. Gomez would hit one right to pass before Rubin would pulls it wide from long range, and we head to halftime, despite the fact that RSL were the better team. Dallas were leading 1-0. Now, the second half, Paz would absolutely rob Savarino from point blank, and it looked like RSL picked up where they left off. Like they were pressing to try to get this equalizer. Paz would deny Savarino again from close range before he denied Ojeda in the 64th minute, and Paz was kind of the only reason why Dallas was still in the lead. Like there was just so many chances that RSL has had, but you gotta also question this Dallas defense, the fact that there's just way too many quality look for RSL, and you just feel like eventually one of them is going to get into the back net. And it did happen in the 68th minute as RSL finally solved Martin Paz and Jefferson Savarino specifically finally solved Martin Paz because he was denied a couple of times as he scored here from Meram and Vera to tie the game up at one apiece. It was a wonderful header there from Savarino. Paz had absolutely no chance in terms of saving that. But if you thought that maybe this will give RSL the momentum because they've been on the front foot and they've been dominating this game to kind of turn this game around, this is where there's another twist in this game happened because in the 88th minute, Kamingo scored his first career MLS goal from Farfan and O'Brien to make it 2-1 in favor of Dallas. Yeah, that definitely was not in the script in terms of the way that Dallas would kind of outplay up to that point. But Merrim did try to equalize late for RSL, but he curls that one wide in the fifth minute of stoppage time. And yeah, in the end, despite the fact that RSL were heavily dominate this game against Dallas, they don't get anything out this game with a 2-1 loss. And the shots pretty much tells the story. 15 shots compared to just 4 that Dallas had. 5 shots on goal for the 2 that Dallas had. 7 shots off target for the none that Dallas had. 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Dallas had. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to the 48% possession that Dallas has in this game. And while it was an ugly win, I think Dallas will take it. But for RSL, they would definitely feel like they've been hard done in this one because of the fact that, again, they were the better team in this one. But this is just kind of the beauty of soccer because just because sometimes you're the better team, if you don't finish your chances, and also if you ran into an opposition goalkeeper that want to channel his Manuel Neuer like Martin Paz did in this one, that's what happened in this game as they walk away with nothing coming out of this one despite playing very well. Speaking of a team that also lost, despite the fact that they were the better team, that was the case between Minnesota and Orlando City. I mean, I really think this was probably the best attacking performance that Minnesota has played throughout this season. And yet they get nothing out of this game because an old problems come back to haunt the Loons again. Remember how I said before at times last season and also the previous year how I get frustrated at times where while they have looked good going forward on the attacking end, the finishing has been just absolutely atrocious, and that this game was kind of the same thing, and it comes back to haunt them because Orlando, this is the thing that I think I've been impressed about Orlando, where at times, even though they're not playing well on the road, they somehow still are able to get all 3 points out of that one and take advantage of the limited chances that they had, and also get And thank Galese there because he also made a couple of key save in this one. Though in the first half, in the second minute, I think this chance kind of was a foreshadow of what we're about to see from the Loons because Longwane, I feel like he should have scored here. Like this was put on a plate there from Mender Garcia, and he somehow missed the sitter there. Like that's one that Longwane has to score. And I know he eventually did get on the score sheet, but that should have been 1-0 in favor of Minnesota up to that point. Arriaga then missed wide from long range as I thought it was a fast start for the Loons as they were pressing early for the lead. Longwane then hits one right to Galese before Taylor puts it wide in the back post. The first shot for Orlando didn't came until the 31st minute as Ojeda puts it high from close and then Galese denying Sunben from close range. I'll tell you what, he has been very good for this team. I mean, ever since he came off the bench, in his debut for the Chicago Fire, I have really loved this kid, and that I won't say that he's gonna he kind of reminds me of a certain Argentine player that is currently in AWOL with this team, but yeah, he's definitely offered the quality, and I won't be surprised that if he continued the way that he's been playing for this team, this is the spark that this Loons team needed because without Ray. No, so it just feels like in these last couple of games and really throughout the season, they just missing that quality player going forward on the attack that can be a guy that provides a spark on the attack, and I think Sunbun is definitely the guy to do so. At least in these limited sample size, he has looked really good. But I also thought that this one of those nights again for the Loons where finishing has been poor, and that Galese has just kind of been a wall. He was trying to steal one for Orlando in this one, as despite the Loons had most of the chances we were heading to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Longwane then hits one into the side netting, but then in the 58th minute, finally the Loons broke through, and it's Longwane himself scoring here from Dotson and Lud to make it 1-0. I even wrote finally the pressure paid off because it was coming with the way that you just had a feeling eventually this team was going to put one away, and while there's times where that's not always a guarantee, it was very good to see that finally they were able to put one away and takes the lead. And I'm thinking, well, this maybe would open the floodgates, right? No, because the lead didn't last long with the way that in the 66th minute, Orlando ties it up. It's Angulo scoring from Gonzalez and Perea to tie the game up at one apiece. And while I said that in this game, the most part of this game, why the Loons were unable to get a win or lose this game is bad finishing. I would also like to add that it's because of defensive mistake. Because yeah, who was marking Angulo in the back post? I wrote that with question mark and exclamation mark because you cannot allow him that wide open in the back post like that. And although Angulo still had a lot to do in terms of finishing that one, that is just criminal defending by this Minnesota backline who has been really good this season, but just kind of a a mishap there, and it cost them dearly. Lille then scuffed one over the bar in the 81st minute before Galese would rob Fragapani, but that one actually did recycle back to Trapp, who trying to hit it on the second attempt, but instead he puts it into the wonder wall, and then in the 87th minute, the nightmare complete for Minnesota because Maguire would score here for Orlando to make it 2-1 in this one. Duncan Maguire has definitely done very well doing his early days with Orlando City, and keep in mind he did came out of the Super Draft, and once again, this is another example of the Super Draft making me eat my words of how I talk about how it's kind of useless in the past, but again, once again, just bad defending from the Loons. I mean, there was no one marking on Gulo in the back post. That's the second time that has happened in this game, and while he did hit the post there in this attempt, uh, the entire back line for the Loons was slow to react. Like there was a lot of ball watching that was going on when the ball hits the post there, and Maguire was there first to gets to that one. Just terrible defending there from Minnesota, and they pay the price for it as Orlando has kind of turned this game around and looked like they were indeed going to steal this one. Though in the first minute of stoppage time, Arriaga tried to respond for the Loons, but he fires it wide on the free kick. And yeah, in the end, Orlando City, they get the 3 points in this one for a 2-1 win. Shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 12 oh, I wrote the wrong team there. I don't know why I wrote Portland there. But let me just change that real quick. I used this brown. Wanted to change that. I don't have a purple pen or I don't know where my black pen is, but let me change that real quick. But yeah, 17 shots compared to the 12 that Orlando City has. 2 shots on goal for the 4 that Minnesota has. 9 shots off target for the 5 that Orlando City has. 4 shots that was blocked for the 5 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And while Minnesota, again, they play well in this one, the finishing let them down. And this is kind of starting to get a little frustrating with the way that now that they still have not got a single win at home at Allianz Field, and that when I look at some of the games that Minnesota has to play upcoming, and it's a brutal stretch that they're about to endure. Well, these kind of games where they drop points at home is going to come back to haunt them. In fact, this is the third time that this team has had a lead at home, and the problem with seizing out games at home is definitely an issue with this team. And we know that this team is with the quality that they had, could still just be a fringe playoff team. These are kind of the points that if you're going to be like a fringe playoff team, you cannot simply like drop, let alone all 3 points at home. But for Orlando, I mean, again, they won ugly on the road, and I don't know if that's a satisfying thing for Orlando City fans because while Orlando City fans will be happy with this result, they're gonna tell me that, well, let's see what happened when they play at Exploria Stadium and how they're probably going to had a let down because that's been the problem for Orlando this season and last season. The inconsistency is definitely a huge issue for Oscar Pereira's team. But now moving on in terms of the next match is the Cascadia Derby between the Portland Timbers versus Seattle. So really, for the first 70 minutes of this game, I thought it was relatively even, though you could say that the Sounders were the better team and they had the 1-0 lead, and you're thinking, well, looks like this is where the Sounders is going to get the victory. And then they made a bad mistake in terms of tactical switch, which I'll talk about in just a bit, and that just completely opened the floodgates for the Timbers. And also, not to mention, we might have just saw a candidate for goal of the year, and looks like a certain player decided to honor Jimmy Chara in terms of scoring a bicycle kick. But in the first half, I thought both of these teams, one of the first things that was kind of weird is the fact that both of them were not wearing their traditional green kit. They were instead going for their alternative kit. In fact, it was kind of a battle between two teams wearing red. The Sounders wearing the Bruce Lee Dragon kit and the Timbers wearing their rose pink kit. So yeah, again, it's weird that both of them decided to choose to wear an alternative jersey because in a Cascadia derby like that, I would always assume that both of them would be wearing green, but that's not the case in this one. Though in the second minute, Bravo did miss wide from close range before Ivasic denied Ladero from close. It was a fast start to this Cascadia derby. I mean, with a Cascadia derby, unlike El Tráfico, you're not going to see a game where midfield doesn't exist whatsoever, like what we see with El Tráfico. You're going to actually see a game where there is going to be tactics that's going to be used, and it's kind of more methodical, but that doesn't seem like was the case because early on, both of these teams was kind of gunning for the opening goal. Bravo would put it high from long range before Evander would do the same thing just 2 minutes later. Rui Diaz then heads it wide from the corner before Mascara would hit one right to Fry in the first minute stoppage time. And despite having some good opportunity for both of these teams, we had to halftime scoreless in this Cascadia derby. Now in the second half, Morris shot did take a deflection, but he was denied by Ivasic there. I wrote the wrong name there. He's not denied by his own goalkeeper. Not the first time I've done that in this week's review. But there was no doubt that I thought the Sounders came out the second half as the better team, and they were looking to try to get the opening goal. Ladero tried to do so, but he puts it high from close range. But then in the 59th minute, Rui Diaz does not miss. As he scored here from Vargas and Ladero to make it 1-0 in favor of the Sounders. It was an emphatical finish there from Rui Diaz. And yeah, up to that point, you're just thinking, well, yeah, it looks like the Sounders got this one in the bag because, I will say that for the Timbers, they definitely show much more fight in this game compared to previous game, but that's a lot to do with the fact that it is a Cascadia derby, and it would be just an. I think Timbers fans will just go on an absolute meltdown if this team show no effort whatsoever and want to call Gio Savarese heads if they just didn't show any effort. But yeah, they were down 1-0 in this one, and then the Sounders decided to change their formation. For whatever reason, Brian Schmetzer decided to change the formation of this team to kind of maybe get that second goal and seize out the game. that turns out to be a huge mistake because right after when the Sounders changed the formation, the Timbers started to kind of gain a little bit momentum. I mean, we didn't really see it until what happened in the 71st minute, where Darren Aspire would score from Moreno and Bravo to tie the game up at one apiece. That goal is definitely the goal of the week and a contention for goal of the year because it was a Jimmy Chara as bicycle kick. In fact, I think this one is even better than some of the bicycle kick that Jimmy Chara has scored. I mean, Aspria just, we know he can be a big game player, especially is the reason why for a while we call him Mr. October because he's only allowed to score goals in the postseason a couple of years before. But yeah, he absolutely caught that bicycle kick with Florida and just buries that one, and that just kind of completely changed the game because the Timbers were really just kind of come alive like something we have not seen them do for the entire season. It started with Mascara, just puts it high from close range in the 72nd minute. Little do we know that that was just a warning shot because with the momentum all with the Timbers as they were pressing to get the lead, they do. In the 76th minute, it's Nathan scoring from Moreno and Mascara to give the Timbers the lead. But yeah, this is one that Stephen Fry would love to have back. In fact, this was probably the worst game that Stephen Fry has had for a long time for the Sounders team because this was just a shot from Nathan Fazaka that I feel like Fry should have easily saved it. It wasn't hit with a lot of power, but he got a hand toward it and just not enough to parry that one away. And then 5 minutes later, Niskoda, which get on the score sheet for the Timbers. I mean, it has to feel good for Yaroslav Niskoda because it's been a nightmare season for him so far for the Timbers. But he scored here to make it 3-1 in favor of the Timbers. And again, Fry was kind of one of the reasons why this one went in because had a chance to catch this one from a weak shot from Nathan, and he dropped it. It went right into the path. Well, actually, he didn't make another save there, but Nishkoda was there to pounce on the rebound once again, and just like that, in a blink of an eye, the Timbers were up 3-1 when they were down 1-0 just 10 minutes ago. And then just to put the cherry on the top, Mascara would score from Paredes to make it 4-1 in favor of the Timbers. The floodgates was blown open. Like this was just an epic meltdown for the Sounders to give up 4 goals in a span of just 17 minutes. And that would actually be the difference in this one, as in the end, the Timbers, they win 4-1 in this one over the Sounders, the first win of this season ever since opening weekend. And the shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 15 that the Sounders had, 5 shots on goal compared to 8 that the Timbers had, 5 shots off target compared to 6 that the Sounders had. Both team had 4 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And I said this in the preview. This is a desperation game and almost kind of a must-win for the Portland Timbers because if they want to kickstart of just this disastrous season, they need to get a win in this one and can propel them going forward. Well, they got a win in this one, and now let's see whether or not if that is going to. I mean, you've got to say that it surely has to propel this team. The performance that they put in this one was head and shoulder above better than any of the performance that they've put. And yeah, we'll see whether or not if they can get themselves going because when you look at the standings, it's hard to believe, but they're actually now back in the playoff position despite of a poor start that they had. And if they can get a couple of wins in a row and finally start to figure things out, then watch out. This Timbers team can start to go up in the standings. But for the Seattle Sounders, I think Brian Spritzer, his reaction kind of sums up what every Sounders fan feel about this game. Just utterly embarrassed. I mean, this is a game where they're playing perhaps one of the weakest, not the weakest Timber side that they've faced in the past couple of years, and yet they come out on a wrong end of a blowout. And they also mentioned the fact that this is also the fourth straight victory for the Portland Timbers over the Seattle Sounders. Yeah, I never thought the Cascadia Derby kind of become one-sided, but yeah, the Sounders, it just feels like for the past couple of games, they just cannot figure out the Portland Timbers. And mind you, this is also the first, I think, free meeting between both of these teams. I'm pretty sure the Sounders don't want to see the Timbers again for a very long time because, again, just this game, again, a lot of that would be down to the fact that Fry made some had some bad moment there, but I think the overall has to be the formation change and also the substitution pattern. It just kind of cost the game for the Seattle Sounders in this one. But that being said, I am now going to switch forward and look at the last two game in terms of the Saturday night action of match week number 8. But yeah, moving on into these last two games, and these last two games were not close whatsoever. And we start with the San Jose Earthquakes versus Sporting KC, and I would like to say that this is probably the only game from this match week that it was kind of considered normal and kind of consider expected of how the outcome is, because this week we have seen so many games where there's been crazy late goals that have scored either for equalizer or for the winner, and then we also seen some unexpected blowout and some upsets that has happened. This, of course, was a blowout, but it was an expected one. I mean, even though I know the Quakes have not had a good history against Sporting KC, I think after this game, it is pretty clear that Sporting KC is almost at the same level of the LA Galaxy crisis level. Like, the fan base for Sporting KC are just an absolute disarray, and a lot of them are clearly targeting Peter Vermees and want him to be gone. But in the first half, Yu would hit one right to Milia in the 8th minute, but then just 1 minute later, Quakes would get the opening goal, and it's Espinoza scoring from Cal and Montero to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. I mean, this has just been a career start for Christian Espinoza. I mean, I knew that he was good in terms of making the assist, but I didn't think that he was a guy that can single-handedly carry this team on his back in terms of goal scoring. What I mean, he's have scored like the last 3 goals or the last 4 goals that the Quakes has had. I mean, he is just on another level that I have not seen Christian Espinoza has ever gone in a season. But you got to also give a lot of credit to K-Cal. And I think K-Cal, this was probably the first time I would say that he actually lived up to his potential to be a decent player, because he had a really good game here. It was a lovely delivery there from Cal, and just pretty much put one right on the play of Espinoza, who easily taps that one home to give the Quakes a 1-0 lead. Then Grazo would hit one right to Milia in the 12th minute, and the Quakes were rolling up to that point. Like, they were in complete control of this one, and they were looking for the second goal. And Ibosi tried to do so. In fact, he tried to chip Milia from long range, and Milia was off his lines, and he was trying to do it from 40 yards out, but it hits the roof of the net. I mean, yeah, that was very, very, very close. Similar to what we saw in the game between the Fire and the Union, where one of the Fire player, who I forgot who exactly is, trying to chip the goalkeeper from his own half, but didn't quite do so and hits the roof of the net. And the same case here for Jeremy Aboasi. But in the 35th minute, the first shot for Sporting KC finally happened as Zusi's shot took a deflection and it actually had to be tipped over from Marcinkowski. And I thought the Quakes got to be careful, because that came off of a turnover, which is never a good thing, and that they're only leading 1-0 in this one, despite the fact that they were by far the better team. But it wouldn't stay 1-0 for long, because a penalty would then given to the Quakes after Castellanos brought down a Boasi in the box, and Castellanos actually got a straight red for a denial of goal score opportunity, and that instead of expecting Espinoza the one to take the penalty, because he is the guy that is the penalty kick taker, I got to give a lot of credit the fact that he decided to give this one to Boasi, because Jeremy Boasi, he's been kind of going through a bit of a goal drought. He hasn't scored a goal in over a month, and that it's easy for a penalty kick taker to just kind of claim it on his own and kind of stat pad hit his season, like what we see with Espinoza. But he does the right thing. Decide to give his number 9, trying to get him out of the drought that he's been going through for a month. And he gladly take it, and he makes no mistake from the spot, as he scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Quakes. That's the first goal in over a month for Jeremy Aboasi, and that it's safe to say that, as we talk about in just a bit, that it kind of really helped the fact that he finally scored a goal. In fact, let's just talk about that right away, with the way that the Quakes were up 2-0 in the second half, and that heading into the second half, he wastes no time to score his second goal of the game, as he scored here from Murray and Cal to make it 3-0 in favor of the Quakes. And this is going to be great news, because up to this point, I think the Quakes attack, one of the big concern I have is the fact that Espinoza is the only one that's contributing in terms of the goal scoring department. They've been kind of going through a bit of a problem going for up front and having troubles in terms of scoring goals. Well, not only the fact that Espinoza continued to be red hot, but now you get Jeremy Aboasi and his drought comes to an end and started to score goals for this team. All of a sudden, this team, there's definitely some upside, and I don't want to use the word optimism, because I never want to use the word optimism when I talk about this Quakes team, but there's definitely besides the fact that things are definitely trending the right direction for this Quakes team. Now, in the 56th minute, Tommy did try to get something going for Sporting KC with a long range shot, but that one goes over the bar. Before on the other end, Milia denied count in the near post as the Quakes almost made it 4-0. Though it was almost 3-1 when Russell struck the post from close range in the 63rd minute. But really, as the time winds down, it just feels like both of these teams were playing out the string. Like the game was pretty much all done, and that both of these teams was just trying to seize this game out without any injuries or so forth. And yeah, in the end, the Quakes with a 3-0 win against Sporting KC. The shots in this one, 10 shots committed, 9 that Sporting KC had. 3 shots on goal for the 6 that the Quakes had. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Sporting KC had. 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that Sporting KC had. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that Sporting KC has. And for the Quakes, I believe this is the 4th win that they have this season at home in the last 5 games, and they're still unbeaten at home this season. So it's safe to say that PayPal Park is definitely back to be a fortress and a place that opposing teams don't want to play against the Quakes when they have to go on the road. But again, we'll see whether this good start from the Quakes will continue because they're about to hit a schedule patch that it's going to get tougher. They do face some really good team coming up starting next week against RSL on the road. And even though I know RSL has kind of been struggling lately, I'm pretty sure they're probably very upset about what happened in the game against Dallas. And then I think they started to play the LA team, and I think there's like 3 games in a row where they exclusively only play the LA team both at home and on the road. But for Sporting KC, yeah, the nightmare start to this season just continue. In fact, it's now at a historic level where, with the way that they got shut out again, which I think this is like the 7th time that they got shut out so far in the first 8, or actually not the 7th time, but the 6th time that they got shut out in the first 8 games and only scored 2 goals in the first 8 games. This is now officially the lowest amount of goals that a team have scored in the first 8 games. And again, there's got to be a lot of concern and to a level of panic level from the Sporting KC side, where I think before this team was simply cursed because of the amount of chances and they can't put away. I think now, from what we've seen in the last couple of games, you can see this team goal scoring confidence is completely shattered. Like it's getting to a point where it has simply broken them, where they just cannot put the ball into the back of net. And I think the only way to solve them for them is that they need to win a game and need to go on a goal scoring rampage in a game. Because as long as that is not going to be the case, Sporting KC is just going to continue to stuck in the mud, like what they are right now. And I think right now the pressure has to be at an all-time high for Peter Vermees. I mean, last season it was at an all-time high because of a bad start that they had, and I would like to say that this start is probably even worse than last season because of the way that they still have not got a win throughout the first 8 games of the season. But now moving on in terms of the next match, and actually the last match of all the games I've reviewed for match week number 8. So yeah, St. Louis, they definitely sent a message out after this game and definitely silence a lot of those doubters. The fact that yeah, the first 5 games where they got 5 straight wins to start their life in MLS, it's not a fluke whatsoever because despite the fact that they have kind of gone through a little bit of adversity with them losing 2 in a row after that dream start to their life in MLS. In this game, getting back home at City Park to play against the best team in the league, and they absolutely throttle FC Cincinnati. And I think this is a game that pretty much shows why Pat Nolan was very concerned about this team, even though his team was first in the standings. He said before that he's still very concerned the fact that they're not playing up to their potential, and this game basically shows it. Now, first of all, I want to say that we had a long delay for lightning and tornado in the St. Louis area. In fact, by the time this game was starting, it was something like 9:40 p.m. local time, and this was actually the last game to kick off out of all these games. Even the West Coast games kicked off before this one does happen. But you got to give a lot of credit to those St. Louis City fans. Like the stands were still very packed, even once the game restarted. Like usually when you see a game that has such a long delay, it probably might be half empty or even a quarter they're full, but the stands still look very packed, and you wouldn't have guessed it that there was a weather delay when you look at the stands that is very packed. And I know some will say, well, this is just the fact that the fans pay extraordinary amount of money to attend the game, and yes, St. Louis City tickets are really expensive. But at the same time, it just shows you the commitment of this fan base. They truly support their team, and they are willing to ride out a 2+ hour lightning storm to watch their team play. And they were quickly rewarded with that because in the third minute, St. Louis take the lead. It's Jared Stroud scoring from Klaus and Leuven to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis. And then Stroud tried to go for another one just 7 minutes later, but this time he hits it right to Salatano. It was all St. Louis early. And this is bad news for Cincinnati because one of the key for St. Louis that I think a lot of team is trying to do is they're going to try to wear them out because you know that they're going to press, you know that they're going to be trying to be on the front foot. So if you can basically ride out the pressure and kind of tire them out by the second half, then yeah, you have a shot in terms of winning. But that's not the case for Cincinnati, especially giving up a goal so early. But they did have their first shot in the 13th minute as Santos just puts it wide from close range before Leuven would hits it wide on the free kick. But then in the 39th minute, he would be on target as he scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of St. Louis. A couple of minutes later, it would be 3-0 in favor of St. Louis as Kyle Hebert would score from Stroud and Klaus to make it 3-0 in favor of St. Louis, and they were just running riot at City Park. And Cincinnati were looking like a team back in their wooden spoon year with the way that they play. I mean, just optional defending from them, and that, yeah, it was quite incredible to see St. Louis just really pouncing on this team, and to just show you how crazy this game turns out for St. Louis. Coming into this game, Cincinnati has only given up 4 goals, and they have been probably one of the most stingiest defense in the league. And in this game in total, St. Louis actually have or in this game, Cincinnati actually have conceded more goals against St. Louis than all of their first 7 game combined. So yeah, this was just pure domination to a level that we did not expect. And it kind of continued in the second half, as in the 53rd minute, Giacchini would score from and Nelson to make it 4-0 in favor of St. Louis. And then just 4 minutes later, it's 5-0 in favor of St. Louis, as unfortunately Sanatano would score an own goal here because of course that's kind of the story of St. Louis City, and that's all kind of a goal that will feed the haters and the doubters of St. Louis City about how, yeah, this is just kind of getting out of hand of all the luck that they have, where this one of course coming off the post and unfortunately hit the back of Celentano, and it's just kind of one of those times where I've seen it before happen in the league, and it's got to be very frustrating if you're a goalkeeper where you thought that you were saved by the post and then it hits the back of you and it goes into the back of net, and that's exactly what happened in this one. Though in the 62nd minute, at least Cincinnati did had something to cheer about as Santos would score from Baji there to make it 5-1. And then Vasquez tried to get another consolation for Cincinnati, but his header goes right to Berkey. And similar to this game for the last 13 minutes, I mean, both of these teams had a couple of decent chances, but it just felt like both of these teams were seeing out this game. And yeah, in the end, St. Louis definitely sent a message to the rest of the league that, yeah, that first 5 games that we had where we got five wins in a row, yeah, it's not a fluke whatsoever because they absolutely smashed the what was the team that's leading the supporters shield standing, that is Cincinnati 5-1. And the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 11 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots on goal for the 7 that St. Louis had, 3 shots off target compare the 4 that St. Louis had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 6 that St. Louis had. And possession wise, Cincinnati had more of the possession, but that's kind of by design in St. Louis point. 57% possession compared to 43% possession that St. Louis had. And I think this game must be a good wake-up call for FC Cincinnati because, like I said, Pat Nolan, he has warned his team that, yes, they are at the top of the Eastern Conference. Well, at least at this game, they're not there anymore, and that they have been able to get those gritty wins, but at some point they got to start playing up to their potential, and they're definitely underachieving. And that we'll see whether or not if this is definitely a good wake up call, because giving up 5 goals to a St. Louis team that I know St. Louis has been good this season, and it's been a magical expansion season for this team, but yeah, giving in a game where they have given up more goals than they have given in their entire start of this 2023 season, that has to be a huge wake up call for the Cincinnati team. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review for these games as part of part number 2 of match week number 8. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this review. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.